What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Shoot the Gap, the IDP Fantasy Football podcast here at Fantasy in Frames. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. I got Steve Hungarner doing Mr. IDP Hunter. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm not doing well. Thank you for asking. Everyone always says they're doing great. I'm not doing well. I may need therapy after this week, Jorge, and you're the cause of it.
Well, I'm glad I could contribute in any way I can. JT, how are you doing today?
I'm making it, man. Making it. Trying to get through here, but we're doing okay. I'm ready for the show. Got through the early part of the day. It was a rough day, but we're ready to roll now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
JT, I'm playing. I was just teasing with Jorge. I'm playing in his brand league with him, and he defeated me. I had the undefeated best squad. He defeated me, which put my ego from here all the way down to here. So you know who's number one right now because he did that? Our arch rival, Sean Teague, who's in the chat right now. He knew I was going to talk crap about him. That's why I'm bringing it up. So, Jorge, we're supposed to be allies, and you take me out, only for IDP Nation, Sean Teague, to be ahead of us. This reminds me, I have two scenarios for you. This reminds me of the time when Kane eliminated The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin stole the title. Or this reminds me when Jake the Snake Roberts beat Vader way back in 1996, and Steve Austin beat him, took it, and the rest is history. Austin 316. But yeah, I just wanted to vent a little bit, and on live air, why not?
You know, I think that is hilarious. But at the same time, I'm sorry, but not sorry. Well, congratulations to you. You're just killing it in the Butt Kiss Division IDP tournament we got here at the Kings Classic. So
I just lost, and I put up 320 points in a week. That's another one I need therapy for. Joe Wiggins is also in the chat. I have something for him as well later. So,
well, you know, you are still doing well in that tournament. My all defensive back approach at box safety is not yet. And then Gary Davenport, who can't make it tonight, folks, he messages me while I'm on our pregame show on Sunday, like multiple times. He's like, your roster's not set. Your roster's not set. And this entire time, I thought I'm only supposed to put in 19 players, but turns out you're supposed to put in 22.
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh my God, this could explain like so much. But
wow.
Right. Seriously.
Isn't that the worst though, when the league doesn't warn you and tell you don't have enough guys in? I have another league like that one of my buddies was like,
it's my fault.
I think I've been putting in one short guy every week in our league. And I'm like, how many are you playing? He's like, I don't know. I just put in X amount of guys, but I think I'm short. And I'm like, look at him like, dude, you have been. You one short guy every week. Didn't warn him. I'm like, oh, that's terrible.
Well, that's the thing. Like with MFL, like with other leagues, it's like I hit submit lineup and around the app that is, and it'll tell you need to fill X amount of spots for, but for the Kings Classic, it doesn't. And it's just like, okay, lineup submitted. Steve's he is totally in shock. I did not know the roster requirements, but
he's like, that's it. I'm out of the show.
I'm out. I can't do it. It's too stressful. On the flip side, though, on the IDP Oasis tournament, still holding on to first place. That one is a very cool tournament. JT, have you heard about this Fantasy Football Oasis IDP tournament?
I have not played in that one.
So the premise is that every week you have to start at least one quarterback, multiple running backs, wide receivers, a tight end, a kicker, and then like 2 to 3 tackles, defensive ends, linebackers, cornerback, safeties, and you have to like meet the roster requirement for each one. The kicker for the Fantasy Football Oasis, though, is once you use a player, you cannot use them again for the season, kind of like our sack lunch. So I lucked out in week 2, and I'm holding on, and I've been like streaming a lot of like people, or I've been putting in a lot of people that I would not put in towards the end of the season, and so far it's been working out for me. But man, that is a stressful league. They're all stressful, but they're all fun. That's why we do it, folks, right? All right, enough of that. Let's get into some news and notes before we get into Monday Mirage and plays and fades and sack lunch. Let's get to it. Yes, folks, a little bit of housekeeping business to take care of first here. If you haven't already, head over to trophysmack.com, use the promo code fantasyandframes10, get 10% off of any purchase you have there, whether it's for a title belt or a trophy or, the Borat Skimpy Fantasy Loser outfit, which is hilarious. And I definitely need to see I don't need to see somebody wearing it. I just need to hear of the fact that somebody had worn it and that they are utterly humiliated for coming in last in their fantasy football leagues. So get that for them too. Have some fun with it. Fantasy and Frames 10 over at Trophy Smack. And gentlemen, there's some news and notes here. I think the one that jumps off the screen here the most is Nick Bosa tearing his ACL in his other knee this time, not the same knee that he tore it last week. Not last time, but last time, not last week. Just brutal, right? Just brutal. You never want to see, a player go down to injury, regardless who they are. But this is like one of the biggest high-profile defensive linemen / edge rushers in the NFL. And to be honest with you, the fact that he hadn't played a full season in a couple years is kind of why a lot of people were actually fading, if you want to use that term, Bosa as like a top 5 defensive lineman in their IDP drafts this year. Is because it's like he's really great when he's on the field, but he has been missing a few games.
It hurts because like if I lose a running back, I can take a handcuff. If I lose, wide receiver, I can find one. Having an elite defensive end, because I have him in a couple lineups. What am I going to do to replace that? What am I going to find that from? So yeah, I'm sick as a dog right now.
Yeah, it hurts me as well. I've got him in a bunch of spots on teams that were tearing it up, and now I'm like, is this where my team starts falling apart? Because he was like crushing in a bunch of my leagues, and I'm like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah, no, it is not great. Of all the Bosas that I would have thought would have been on injury already so far this season, Nick would not be the one that I was anticipating. Knock on wood that Joey doesn't go down, because that would not be good either. Today,
take that bet. Nick or his dad. I'd go Joey, his dad, then Nick. That's the injury odds right there.
The Philadelphia Eagles moved outside linebacker / edge rusher Nolan Smith to IR. Apparently, there is a triceps re-injury. I think he had surgery on that in the offseason, if memory serves me correctly, and something flared up, and they felt that it was prudent to put him on IR. For those Zach Bond managers out there who are enjoying so far your fantasy season and definitely enjoyed it last year, didn't practice today. Neither did Jahad Campbell. So again, this is Wednesday as of this recording during the week. So, nothing groundbreaking, earth shattering in your IDP lineups potentially. But those were a couple of names that I was not anticipating seeing pop up there today. So keep checking out the Philadelphia Eagles injury report as we get going. The Washington Commanders brought in Darnell Savage, former Maryland Terrapin, go Terps, into the secondary here I don't know if it's to replace Will Harris or not, or just to add depth. And we can get into that a little bit later in Money and Mirage. But it is a signing that they're going to be adding. And Savage was released by Jacksonville last week. So that's probably not a good sign that the Jaguars are releasing you. And then the Commanders are like, yeah, we'll take you. And it's like, choices. And then, of course, to round things up with news and notes, Andrew Van Ginkel and Harrison Smith both returned to lineups this past week. Very good for a lot of IDP leagues for the Andrew Van Ginkel managers. And the Harrison Smith return helped out and hurt one player and hurt another player from their fantasy perspective. So we'll get into that a little bit later as we talk about that. Gentlemen, is there anything that maybe from your personal IDP leagues, I know I'm kind of going off script here, that kind of threw you through a loop this past week? I know Gary would say, damn the Bengals defensive front, because Trey Hendrickson didn't get me a sack as I predicted in my sack lunch last week. Any horror stories from your IDP leagues so far this year? Or did you have generally a good week performance wise?
I was going to say the one big question I had a couple people messaging me on the Twitter on X about was they were asking me what I thought the Jets were going to do at linebacker with the injury, Quincy Williams gone, and what's going on there, who I think is going to fill in. I told him I'm not sure. I was looking at all the news and notes today. I was looking at Steve's stuff. I was waiting to see if somebody was going to give me a good nugget of like who to kind of suggest to people, because I was like right now, early in the week, I was like, we really don't know who they're going to have plug and play. Is it a guy that's been on the roster just because he knows the system, or are they going to, we've seen it. Especially at linebacker, we've seen teams sign guys off the street basically and turn around and start them right away. So you guys got any nuggets on what you think the Jets might do?
Pray.
So, not really, but I'm so glad we're here because, asking us week 1, week 2, rest of season notes, we don't have enough data. It's just cool that now we're actually crunching numbers and we're seeing who's on the chart. But yeah, these are questions we still don't know. I was going to say, and we're going to detail it here, the whole Titans LB2 scenario threw me through a loop. That was a big one. I'll bet you this, the one that me and you both were right on Herbeck. I bet you for sack lunch, you were sweating that, weren't you? Because Herbeck didn't get his sack the first quarter, second quarter. I think it was later in the game. You were probably sweating that one, but that was a great call, my friend. And you get to keep Watt for a later week.
Yeah, that
one worked out well.
Very nice. What about you,
Steve? And it worked out good because I played them both in multiple IDP leagues. And for them both to come through with some big sacks. Finally, the Steelers defense let me down the week before on a couple matchups I lost close where I didn't get much out of any of those guys. Nice little run last week. And now we're going to I got to set the alarm, wake up early, get up early for the game with the Ireland game. So,
oh yeah.
It's that's early in the morning for me, boys. You know that I'm a late night guy. I'm a bar owner. The early ones, I gotta really make sure I'm on my game to get up in time to do it for those games. So I'm gonna be up early this week.
Me and Nate were talking about this about Cheatham in reference to Thanksgiving a couple years ago. That's an impossible week for me because you got family in, you're trying to cover this game, that game, this game. And I remember I was taking a nap after Thanksgiving. I was eating a turkey, and I woke up, and I'm like, oh, Evan Williams, he's out of the lineup. I got to go take him out of fantasy. Nightmare, man. But, yeah, we're getting to that point of the season where we'll have more information. But those guys were completely, unknown.
No, sure. I do want to shout you out, Steve, because I feel like every week I look on my Twitter feed and you're publishing IDP novels, literally graphic novels without the graphics, if you get what I'm saying. And I want to shout out a couple of your articles today that we posted. Your IDP safety dance article series where you're looking at box snap usage, as well as your every down linebacker article over at Fantasy Six Pack. Just tremendous work, tremendous IDP resource there, folks, for everybody who looking to get the leg up on their competition. Just great stuff over there. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Always happy to promote the love of IDP fantasy football wherever I can. And with that,
I like to put articles together that I'd want to read, because most of this guy's good, so I'm kind of right. Where are they positioned? Where do they move? How would this affect a 32 team league? You know what I mean? So I like to know numbers and I don't know. I always like to ask why. Why does this happen? Why does this keep happening? So it makes good content.
Absolutely. It's fantastic stuff. Again, Fantasy Six Pack. You can check out his articles there as well as his rankings. And don't forget to head over to fantasyandframes.com also and check out our rankings as well as our IDP waiver wire that Gary Davenport puts together. And then Joe Harlow, hard at work already, finished up his IDP plays and fades. That'll go out tomorrow, as well as our offense and DST plays and fades. That'll go out tomorrow as well. So long night for Jorge editing the last few bits of article content coming out this week. But you know what? It's a passion. We love it. But speaking of passion, I really love this next segment we have here on Shoot the Gap. It's called Money or Mirage. All right, and folks, everybody who's tuning in right now, really appreciate it. Wherever it is, whether you're on our YouTube channel, and if you're there, you might as well hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever Fantasy and Frames puts out awesome fantasy football content. We've been blowing up on TikTok a lot lately, gentlemen. A lot of our, whether it's from our podcast here or our article content, and we just put it in graphic form and just all sorts of video form. I've been loving that. Instagram, you Facebook people, we're coming for you next. So we want to hit all of our social media platforms here. But of course, if you're watching over on X, please give us a follow at Fantasy and Frames. We'd really appreciate it. All right, let's get into Money Mirage. And those of you who are new to the show, basically the premise is we're going to say a statement and we're going to tell you whether that's money, totally buying it, 100% on board, or Mirage in the yeah, we saw it happen, but I'm not buying it going forward. So let's start with our first one. And this is going to revolve around a player that we all were talking about, especially when we did our AFC East divisional preview back in late July, early August. And even though he only played 44% of snaps this past week, Jack Gibbons, the former Tennessee Titan, now New England Patriot, is looking like he's going to be the linebacker 2 for the Patriots going forward. Given his familiarity with head coach Mike Vrabel, Gibbons is a must roster in IDP only redraft leagues before his name gets hot on the waiver wire. Is that a money statement or a Mirage statement? JT, let's start with you.
I'm actually going to go with that. This is a money statement. We've kind of seen what the Patriots staff is doing this year, and they basically said, we want nothing to do with anyone that was here before. I mean, they're just moving guys left and right. They're cutting guys. They're trading guys. They want their own players. I know we talked about this in the preseason show. I thought Gibbons would win this job outright early on just because of the familiarity with the head coach, with Vrabel. I'm in this. I was looking at a bunch of my waiver wires and trying to figure out, like, do I have anybody to drop? Who can I move? And it's checking to see if Gibbons is out there, because I really do think this is going to be a good pickup. Because here's what we've seen. If Gibbons gets in and plays, he typically puts up fantasy stats for IDP. Now, the question is, how long are you going to get him for? He typically gets hurt. So if he can get him and he plays a while, I think he wins this because I think he's more consistent than Christian Ellis. The issue for me, I think Christian Ellis is a big play guy. He can get you the sack. He can make some moves for you. He's just not going to always be the consistent linebacker making the tackles, everything you need, that I think Gibbons is a little better at. I thought Gibbons would win this early on. Like I said, I think Gibbons ends up holding this job as long as he's healthy. I think Christian Ellis is now going to be more of a, hey, where can we put him at DN? Can we rush him? Can we play him in some different situations? But I like Gibbons here. I'm money on this. I'm picking up Gibbons wherever I can.
What about you, Steve?
So this is a Mirage for now. Stash and redraft, yes. IDP only redraft, stash. But don't go in Dynasty thinking he's the next great thing, because we don't have the snaps to follow yet. Yes, Christian Ellis sucks. We know this. Yes, we covered on the podcast. But just the case against snap share matters, and right now there's not enough to trust week to week. So I wouldn't in a Dynasty, but I would in a deep dive, 16-team redraft. So I love the way you ask these questions too, Jorge. They're sneaky driver's license questions. Is he a mustache? No, he's not a mustache till you hit that, that 75 and above threshold for me. But I think to agree with JT, I think it's coming, but I don't see it right yet.
All right.
In a 10-team keeper, high-scoring IDP, if you have Christian Ellis on your team, are you immediately dropping him?
In a 10-team keeper, I'm not having Christian Ellis on my team.
I know it's a deep IDP. It's very hard to get linebackers. If you have Christian Ellis, are you going screw it now and dropping him?
How much bench do I have?
Not
how many linebackers start? Was that
you could start 2 to 5? I have 4 on my roster. That's how hard it is to come across linebackers.
Yeah. If you're starting 5, I'll put my grandmother in there as a linebacker. I'll do that. Who's the 5th string Jets linebacker? I'm doing that. Yeah, to your point. I was just talking like within a nutshell. Right now, I love Gibbons, and that's a great question. But I'm just like right now, let's follow the tea leaves first, because I could think of like in a regular league, I can think of like 9 other guys right now that are just hovering. But he's in that Kaiser White range, maybe
yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, to me, with all the LB2s coming out here, with all the injuries and kind of the very, like, we're just not sure what's happening with a lot of these teams, I feel like at least I've seen Gibbons in the past. And I'm like, if I'm going to take a chance on one of these guys, I'm taking a chance on Gibbons just because I know he's performed in the past. It is a swing, but like Jorge said, the only reason I'm buying right now is I'm buying this week in case it ends up being a hit, because if you wait till next week, it's going to totally matter where you're on your waiver wire and how much money you have left in your fab. So
Right.
For me, I'm jumping on this week because if he misses, I'm just replacing Chris Ellis. So
we're saying the same
don't
thing.
feel like that far off. Yes, I agree with you.
We're saying the same thing. It's
We're
in the
answering
phrasing
the
of the question.
slightly differently. We're answering
he
it
a
slightly
must?
differently.
You know what I mean? But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's I should have italicized my tricky points whenever I'm writing these questions going forward. Like, ooh, this is where it gets crazy. Speaking of getting crazy, and I was alluding to this earlier during News and Notes with Darnell Savage. Money and Mirage. Jeremy Reeves of the Commanders is the new hotness in Washington. I can't believe I said new hotness. Forgive me. In Washington's secondary that should be rostered in IDP leagues for teams hurting at defensive back / safety. Steve, we'll start with you this time.
So this may be a reach. I don't know if you guys remember Jeremy Reeves, but in 2022, he was a Pro Bowler and he was all
special teams captain. Yeah,
special teams. Yeah, he profiles as like a backup type player. But last week, if you look at the snaps, they let him play. He only received 59 total snaps, but he played 70% of that. Straight up in line scrimmage. It's just a hunch for me, but yeah, I'm picking him up at a lot of places. I have him on my waivers article. I like him. I'm hoping it's him because I already know what I have in Savage. I don't really care for Savage. Even when he was startable, he was like a deep league, a deep zone kind of player. He just got fired by the Jaguars, like you guys already said. And then on top of that, it's a ho-hum spot that he's coming from. Is he going to be any much help? He's coming from it. I mean, it's going to take him a minute to get the playbook down. So in my heart, I think this is money. I think this week, next week, what have you, I think Reeves is your only option there. So I'm going to say money.
All right, JT, what are your thoughts here on Jeremy Reeves?
I'm actually going to go the opposite here. I'm going to go he's a Mirage so far. We saw when they had some injuries and stuff happen last year that they were not afraid to kind of move guys around and play some different guys in some different spots when they had to. We saw Sanders Strill start in the slot, then move wide, then he's playing box snaps. Now he's back in the slot. So they've moved some guys around and done some things. I'm not sold. It depends on in your league how many other safeties are out there. It looks nice with the percentage from the last game. Yep. I still like Quan Martin, even though he's the deep safety. I think he doesn't get used enough close because the guy is he's so athletic. So to me, that's going to be interesting because if Reeves doesn't get it done and Savage ends up seeing a little more time, I think that means he plays deep and Quad Martin plays a little closer to the line. So I'm on a Mirage right now on that because I just feel like if anybody knows how to mess with the other team and move guys around and get what they want out of them, I think it's Dan Quinn. So I like what he does with those guys. So I'm a Mirage for right now. He's not a guy I'm rushing out to pick up just yet.
Shout out to Jorge with these questions. They're excellent. And JT, to JT's point, I have a lot of friends of mine that are backing up what JT's saying right now. It's just me. It's my hunch. It's my conspiracy. Jorge, the Facebook page you joined today, the IDP football page, me and JT are alumni. You have to get in the message chat. That's where we all do our nonsense. The guy who runs it, shout out to Will Holtz. Me and him were talking this same conversation, and he backs up JT what he said. I'm like, I think it's Reeves. I don't want to put it in my article. And he's like, no, dude, they just picked up Savage. So this is a 50-50 divide right now. Which side of the Mason-Dixie line do you want to be on? So yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm looking at the snaps, but to your point, it could very well be Savage. There's no right or wrong answer in week 4 now, is there?
Well, no. So for me, the percentage of snaps for Reeves once he took over was impressive, but how much of that was necessity, right? After and so then you go out and then you make, and the fact that I'm not saying Darnell Savage is like a world beater at the box safety position, but he is, he has been in the league for a long time. If they were really concerned about, bodies in the secondary, they could have brought up somebody from the practice squad to kind of fill in the spot there in the defensive backfield, but to bring in somebody with a veteran presence, it's making me wonder whether or not I want to invest in either right now. I don't want, it's one of those things where I'm let me put it like this. I would be okay letting waivers run through next week and missing out on Darnell Savage or Jeremy Reeves.
Back to that Facebook page, we have a tournament. It's called King of IDP. We play in every year. And that's one of those that JT's talking about. You have to get linebackers. You're starting 5-6. So those are the ones everybody's stacking up. Jack Gibbons' brother, Jack Gibbons' cousin. You're stacking up everybody you can. I'm probably going to take a shot there, but probably nowhere else. You know what I mean? Because, like, if I don't get him now, to JT's point earlier, I'm probably never going to. But honestly, I don't have a lot of leagues where I care about the safety of the Commanders. Sure, Jeremy Chin did great last year. What did Harris do? 4 or 5 tackles a game? I'm not gonna look it up, but I think 4 or 5. So yeah, so I don't think there's a lot of squeeze on the juice, whoever it ends up being.
No, I'm right there with you. All right, let's finish up here. Money and Mirage here, and this one I'm having fun with, and hopefully the IDP junkies out there will as well. Money and Mirage. Tyrell Dodson performance in week 3 makes him the must-have linebacker for the Dolphins at this point of the season. JT?
I was a big Brooks guy to start the year, and I still like Brooks, but man, Dodson's been playing out of his mind right now. He's been really, really good for the Dolphins. I like everything I've seen. It looks like, and Steve, tell me if I'm wrong here, I think he's gotten the green dot now for the Dolphins. So to me, that just sells me even more that he's the guy to own. I still think you can't count out Brooks. I think he's going to have some bigger games. It's just so far it's been Dodson's been the guy to have the bigger games. But I love what Dodson's been doing. I really liked when he went to there with Brooks. I just always kind of thought he'd be second fiddle to Brooks, but right now he's shown to be the man in Miami.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, he's getting the lion's share of snaps on that. Like again, I'm pretty rigid at what I want to do. I'm looking at that 90% role and then where it's being played at kind of thing. He's that usage guy that I want. He's that tackle efficiency guy I want. It's only one game would be the case against him, but yeah, I want Dotson everywhere, and I've been on him since the offseason. So my verdict is money as well. He is the linebacker to own, and both of those guys usually come up underrated. It's just funny this year people are paying attention to Brooks, and now it ends up being Dotson.
So I'm gonna go, man. We look at the total snap count so far this year. Brooks is 193 to Dodson's 192. Both have 92 snaps defending against the run. You have to ask yourself, like, the scoring format. If it's like a tackle heavy IDP format, I'm rolling Dotson, absolutely. Now, if it's big play, if we look at some of the metrics in the grading here per PFF, you see Jordan Brooks actually excels compared to Dodson in coverage as a pass rusher, as well as having the tackle prowess there. Whereas Dotson he's like, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. He's a thumper. You know what I mean? So it is interesting based off of format, but yeah, it's hard to deny what he's done already.
If I was in a situation, Jorge, and somebody's asking me, who would you rather, an LB1 or an LB1 Alpha? We're in a good place.
This is very true. We got Bob Miller on the chat. Dotson has been a steal. Yes, he has.
What's up, Bob?
He was definitely the cheaper version of those guys. But if you look at the stats, like you said, Jorge, they're damn near neck and neck. Dotson's had a little bit of a better tackle efficiency, but they're pretty close across the board.
We got Brandon in the chat. He says, "Is my season over already?" What do you mean? He says, "Is Titans versus Texans the battle for the top 5?" I mean,
if you're talking about for top 5 pick next year, I think this might be a battle for that one. So,
there's a market for a new show, Fantasy Football Therapy. We can just get these kind of
questions
and just go.
I already have the idea of what the intro would be like. So this is I like it. Fantasy football, especially like immediately after the season is over. And people are still having, but the football season is still going on, but the fantasy football season is over. People just having a little bit of PTSD from just, everything fantasy football related, especially those who like came close to winning it all, and then just dreams were crushed.
Like me in the Kings Classic last year, kind of.
You seem to be bouncing back quite well, so I'm not going to feel too horribly for you, but you're doing well.
Bob Miller in the chat. That's nice to see, Bob. We missed you at the Expo this year.
We did miss you, and although he's not too happy this week with the Lions going into Beemore and beating his Ravens, but better days are ahead there, Bob. Better days are ahead. We miss you, man.
Bring it up. You'd be terrible for a therapist. I don't know if you should lead that show.
So I would be the
yeah, Jorge. What are you doing? You're just ruining it all.
You need like a rock star like Gary.
Maybe
man.
Put Gary Davenport on that.
Yeah, oh man, that would be the step. You know what it should be? One of us should be like the therapist, and the other should be like the asshole angel, and then like the good Samaritan angel.
I can play it all
just
day
take
long.
it from there.
So Bob came in on the wrong show. We're a tamer, quieter, milder bunch without Gary around, right? Gary's our gateway drug. He instigates us. So we're kind of calm. We're talking about football today, Bob. You got to tune in another week when Gary's here.
Yeah, we were talking about hookers with Gary last week, so that should tell you all you need to know. Malik Hooker, Amani Hooker, just those are real players. Those are not just names, and we're not just saying that for the sake of saying Hooker, because that would be crazy. Anyhow, okay, cool. Well, that was our Money Mirage segment. Let's get into folks stuff that you are super interested in, and that is who you're playing, who you're fading this week for IDP in week 4. All right, as we do every week, we're going to give you our plays and fades at defensive lineman, linebacker, and defensive back. We're going to take it a little bit step further this week, and then going forward. So we're going to use We're going to use the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings for each week. So for defensive linemen, we're going to be talking about DLs ranked outside the top 12. For linebackers, outside the top 24, and then for defensive backs, outside the top 12. Just to give you some idea of like who are your 2s, your 3s, your flexes, so on and so forth. So let me get things going here. My play at defensive lineman, he is ECR defensive lineman 27, Rashawn Gary. Wow, it really helps when you got a guy like Micah Parsons on the other side of the defensive line helping you get your one-on-one attention here. He is on a tear this season, 3 straight weeks of at least 1 sack. And he's been averaging, using Fantasy Pros IDP, scoring double-digit fantasy points per game. He leads all defenders in the NFL with 5 sacks on the season. He's 5th in quarterback hits, 15th in TFLs, 11th in solo tackles, has a pressure rate of 13.1% on the season, which compared to the league average last year was the league average last year was like 11%. So he's already, eclipsing that. In terms of pass rush productivity metric per PFF, he's the edge rusher 19. And let's face it, Terrence Steele and Tyler Guyton of the Dallas Cowboys have allowed double-digit pressures on the season for a combination of 3 sacks allowed. This Dallas game versus Green Bay, you want to talk about a bloodbath. Like, I'm a Commanders fan. I have no love for the Dallas Cowboys, and even I feel kind of bad of what's coming, the pain that's coming their way. So Rashawn Gary keeps that hot streak going. Again, and with as Micah Parsons goes on the other side, Rashawn Gary equally. And here's a name that I thought we were all writing off in the preseason, but he's had some moments to shine, and that's Lucas Van Ness. Maybe he's somebody that in dynasty leagues you may want to go grab. I mean, you're not somebody you're starting, but somebody that has shown to also turn the corner slightly here for the Green Bay Packers. Steve, who's your defensive line start or play for the week?
To your Gary point, what a great turnaround, leading league in sacks, what have you. I'll tell you what, his tackles, that's the only negative Nelly on him. He doesn't have a lot of tackles. JT, I'm going to be the jackass to start him on like a sack lunch, and that's going to be the week that he doesn't get a damn sack, and I'm going to look like a jackass. That's the only thing I don't like. I wish my ends would have a little more tackle in them, like a Hunter, Granderson, guys like that. But everything else, man, he is just teeing off on Parsons. So I thought that was an excellent one for you to select.
Thank you, sir. Who do you got?
I'm going to go a little deeper. We're getting that point of season where you can kind of put analytics and just some good thoughts towards it. I'm going to go DL 39 on Fantasy Pros. He's just buried alive on there. and it's because there's been no production yet, and that's Nick Herbig of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked his pedigree before on last week's show. He has the upside to be a DL1, and you can get him so late on Fantasy Pros. He's going up against the Vikings, and if you guys don't know, over to Fantasy Six Pack, we got this free tool. It's an app thing. It's points against the position. You can literally put in big three scoring, 1, 2, 3 scoring, Fantasy Pros. Me and Jorge, we were talking offline about this, but according to Joe Bond's points per position, the Vikings are terrible. They give up the most points to the edge. So Nick Herbig's going to eat. And for those that weren't here last week, Nick Herbig, 3 years ago, when he was coming out of college, he was one of the top pass rushers in the country. 2022 season, when he played, he actually ranked Big Ten in sacks. He was a top 10 guy. He's consistently talked about as one of the best. Then he comes in the NFL last year. Herbig showed flashes, and PFF gave him a 91.5. He had 2.5 sacks in 6 games, because Highsmith missed. So it's almost like we're seeing that again, that expanded role. He's not a tackle guy either, just like Gary. He's, going to be famine, big boomer bust, if you will, feast or famine. But I like his chances against the Vikings. I mean, shoot, what did he have last week, JT? 2 sacks, a forced fumble?
He's been tearing it up. He got the pick the week before, and I've said it. If Herbig's in the lineup, unless it's just a quarterback that doesn't get sacked or just an unreal offensive line, I feel like you have to get him in your lineup. I mean, I've got him.
People have been asking me that too. Like, who do you replace? Nick Bosa with. I'm like,
what do you do? Herbig's the guy. I mean, when Alex Smith is out, Herbig is a great ad. He's just a great ad on the other side of TJ Watt.
And for as long as Highsmith is out, do you think this is ever going to be an issue where Highsmith actually potentially starts losing some full-time roles here if Herbig starts to play better?
Eventually, I think it's going to be Herbig there and Highsmith maybe out the door. That's what I think. And then also something we were talking about offline, JT, whenever I'm building a dynasty team, I usually stuff it with more offense than defense. I'll stack that taxi squad. I don't have many IDP players because I churn and burn them. I run them like a skeleton crew. There's guys like Ivan Pace, the potential's there. Guys like Herbig, I've had him on taxi squads like most of my leagues. So I'm so glad this is paying off because he was free, about a month ago?
Yeah.
I've been stashing Herbig everywhere. So I agree with Steve. He was my play too. I'm going to give you a different guy, but he was my play because like I said, anytime I have TJ or Alex Highsmith or both, I make sure I have Herbig on my team because if either of those guys get hurt, he usually comes in and performs. Like I said, they crushed early on. I said in the beginning of the show, saved me last week in a league, won me a league. Him and TJ Watt combined 7 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles last week between both of them. And now you get the Vikings, who have not been great, like you guys said, on the edge. But on top of that, Carson Wentz at QB. Now, we've seen Carson Wentz. He can play well, but he has blow-up games in him where he turns the ball over like mad, fumbles, bad interceptions, things like that. So I'm all in on Herbig play. Honestly, if I've got him in my lineup, I'm starting him. I'm starting over anyone that isn't TJ Watt or probably Micah Parsons this week.
Anybody with upside?
So a couple things. So a couple things. One, the tool that Steve was referencing, the IDP points against, just drop that link into the YouTube channel chat. So feel free to head over there and check this out. And we also got a question here from 3P1C Fail. What you got to explain to me in the chat where that name comes from. I love it. I'm just curious. I'm always curious whenever I see names. So I'm just like, that's different. He says he has a 12-man league, start 2 defensive linemen. Would you drop anyone for Herbig this week out of the following? Carl Granderson, Leonard William, or Dorrance Armstrong? Steve?
Yeah, so you're saying for this week, I would drop Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong's a volume guy. He's volume, and he's good depth, like in these big leagues we have. Granderson's not done yet. He'll have his weeks, what have you. He's coming out the edge. those are guys I want to have. I want to have any week, even if I'm an underdog. I want guys with upside. I want Herbig and Granderson in my lineups. And you know how we feel about Leonard Williams. So, yeah, if you got to drop one for 1 week, it'd be Armstrong. And chances are you might be able to scoop him up the following week. You know, God forbid Highsmith comes back. Different topic, but same premise. You know, people were asking me about how to replace Nick Bosa. And I was saying, hey, try Herbig, try Gary. You know what I might do, JT, Jorge? There's leagues where people dropped Alex Highsmith. He'll be back in a couple weeks. That might be a sneaky play, too. I know that's not the answer here. Drop Dorrance, but think about if Highsmith's around, you might be able to scoop him.
I completely agree. I'm on Dorrance for Herbig. I'd play Herbig over in this week for sure. And if someone is dropping Alex Highsmith, especially in a league with short benches, if you've got some room, pick him up, especially if you have a league with IR that allows out players on IR. Scoop him, throw him on that IR for the week. He'll be back. He'll be good. But I like Herbig. I play Herbig. Yes, pick up Herbig, play him over Armstrong this week.
So it's epic. 3P1C. It's epic. So epic fail.
That makes total sense now. It's like,
get it
backwards.
Epic came on my show last week too, Jorge, after this one was over, because you know I jump over to mine on the IDP Center and it's live. Right. We do offensive. He was in there and he was like one of our MVPs asking questions. And I couldn't say it. And I'm like a dumbass. I'm like, EP1. So thanks for sharing that, because my old brain didn't get it either.
Well, we're all on the same page. And Epic Fail, thank you very much for the clarification. Moggs says, I'm late, but I'm in here. Good job, Moggs. Welcome back.
Better late than never.
That's right. This is a great question. JT, let's start with you. Bryce Huff's outlook here.
Ooh, I tell you what, Bryce Huff's a guy I've not loved in the past, just because I'm like, he looks sometimes he doesn't. He's a player, I have to be honest, I almost own nowhere. Like, unless I took over a team and he was on a team, I don't own him, because he's just so frustrating, because you see the high end, low end. Now, we're starting to get that point of the season where injuries are going to make a difference. And some of these guys who maybe have not been showing up are going to get a little more opportunity than they have been. And some of these guys can show out once they actually get the opportunity, because there's nobody behind them, because they got to play. So if I'm taking a chance on Huff, I'd probably take more of a chance on him now than I would have earlier in the year. If you would ask me this week one what I think about Bryce Huff this year, I'm like, I'm pretty much out on him. I don't like him, but if he's going to start showing up, he's going to start doing stuff for you, I think maybe now is the time that he gets back on track, because we've seen the talent in the past. We know he can do it. Just got to find the consistency.
All right, let's go ludicrous speed here for these plays and fades, because we want to make sure we're not late, because the Fourth and Frames crew is very, very pushy. Just kidding.
Love it.
All right, JT, quick, who is your DL play this week?
So I love Herbig. He was my first guy. If I'm in a defensive tackle league, you cannot ignore what Jordan Davis did last week. Jordan Davis, obviously, play of the week, gets the block, field goal, runs back for a touchdown. I think, with Nolan Smith out, there's a chance they're going to lean on him a little bit more in the pass rush. I like Jordan Davis, especially if you're in like an RSO or MFL league with defensive tackle starter. He's a sneaky good pickup, and there's a decent chance he was probably on the waivers. Somebody dropped him at some point.
All right. Let's go to linebacker. I'll kick us off here. I'm going for here ECR linebacker 30, Mac Wilson Sr. Total, not the linebacker I thought of Arizona as the one that I was going to be like, whoo, Mac Wilson, let's go. Excuse me, it's Mac Wilson Sr., folks. He's earned that. Currently, the LB 15 in Fantasy Pros IDP scoring with an average of 14.2 points per game, 11.6% tackle rate. One of Steve's favorite stats, 211 snaps in the box. That's 93.7%. 28 total tackles on the season. Versus Seattle, using the fantasy six-pack tool there. Seattle is 11th in total tackles awarded. And I use the word awarded very graciously because of the stat crew. 14th in fantasy points allowed to the linebacker position using Fantasy Pro scoring. 3-down roll. He's not coming off the field on third down. He is the guy you want here for your linebacking, especially heading into Thursday Night Football this week. Steve, who you got at linebacker?
So Alex Singleton is Fantasy Pros LB31, and that's ridiculous because he's an LB1. Your LB31, really? And it's because he started off the season small. He had 47 box snaps, then next game 67. Last week he had 80 out of 86 plays in the box. So, he had 12 tackles last week. I'm expecting him to do a lot more against the Bengals. Bengals are middle of the pack. They're 13th? So that's like against the linebackers, so they're meh. But I think the usage is the key. He's going to be in the right place, right time. But yeah, he'll shatter that LB31 expectation.
All right, JT, who is your start or play, at linebacker?
He's a little higher at the top, but I wanted to talk about him because he wasn't for many people to start the year, and that's Quay Walker. I think he's at he's somewhere around linebacker 14 for them. Just it's heavy tackle leagues. He's been great. 31 tackles already this season, 14 tackles last week. And just an unreal performance, 21% tackle efficiency. Everyone said this was Edgerrin Cooper's job. Quay Walker's on the way out, and Quay Walker is trying to make sure he stays on this team. He has played way better than anticipated. I thought he was going to be gone here pretty soon, but he might be playing his way into a contract. He's looked great.
Let's be honest, though, and let's call a spade a spade. Quay Walker being on his way out was never due to his football ability on the field. It was always the bonehead moves and stuff. But that hasn't happened, and his performance has been lights out. All right, let's go to defensive back plays here. Let me go here. I'm going to start off here with Josh Metellus. We saw with Andrew Van Ginkel coming back last week and Harrison Smith coming back to the lineups. Brian Flores, while these guys had both been out, was utilizing more two linebacker sets. That's why you were seeing the uptick in usage in Ivan Pace on third downs. Well, we saw that come back to normal, and we saw Josh Metellus, who was seeing an increase in free safety snaps, get back to his normal role of having. I think he had like a 34% box snap percentage, if memory serves me correctly, and he had a great week for IDP managers, and that's what you want. That's what you're hoping for Josh Metellus. So he's definitely somebody to grab and stash or put in your starting lineup. ECR DB 21 currently over on Fantasy Pros. Steve, who's the play for you at DB?
Yeah, DB 30, Grant Delpit. I get it. You start off a little slow, 98% snaps, 9 tackles. They're moving him down to the box a lot more, so he's essentially the team's third linebacker. He's playing the Lions, which we know run the ball, but playing close to the line of scrimmage, he produced 29 box snaps, counting for 44.6% of his total plays. So that's kind of what I'm banking on here. Delpit stood out that game, and for anybody who wants to see it, I put a tweet of him knocking over Jordan Love when he made his interception. The dude tried to tackle him. He's just a fun player to have right now. He's being grossly overlooked because the first couple of games of the season, but just expect him. If he's playing down, that's his strong suit.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because did you all see the clip of Myles Garrett from this past week where he was talking to his buddy once he got to the bench? He was like, so I got by my blocker, and the guy's like, Jordan, run. And it went back to the play on the field where Myles Garrett's making a beeline for Jordan Love. And the guy is literally saying, Jordan, run, as Myles Garrett is running towards him. It was hilarious. Definitely got to go check that out. JT, who's your defensive back play?
For me, it's Cooper DeJean. 9 tackles last week. He all of a sudden has become their slot guy plus box guy. They're moving around a little bit, but if you add up what he did last week, almost 80% of his snaps came either in the box or the slot. Love that. We kind of were wondering, where was he going to be? He was going to be a safety. He's going to be a corner. Is he going to be a slot corner? Is he going to be box safety? He's kind of doing both. I love where he's at. Good start of the season, 21 tackles, pass defense. We know he's a guy that can make plays and get picks. I love what I'm seeing out of him, and I love the usage for him. And we weren't sure what that was going to be like for the Eagles to start the year with some of their changes in the secondary and on defense. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him. He's another guy, especially if you're on MLF and he's counting as a cornerback and you can play him as a starting cornerback. Absolutely go get him right now. Even if you're just in a DB start league, I still like him a ton. But in a cornerback start league, you got to be all over him now.
All right, let's go to our fades at these positions for this week in week 4. My defensive lineman fade here is Abdul Carter. You may have heard this before kickoff on Sunday Night Football, and it's something that I went back and I checked here. But Chris Collinsworth was talking about how because of the injuries at the linebacking position, Abdul Carter was going to be playing more of an off-ball linebacker role, and that's exactly what he did last week. He played 43 snaps in the box and only played 1 snap at DL. And let's face it, despite him facing a run-heavy Chargers team this week, Carter has a 35% missed tackle rate on the season, so that's not great. And let's face it, the Giants' weakness is really their secondary. So Justin Herbert in the passing game and the receiving game should be on fire. And the missed tackle rate is really what's concerning me with Abdul Carter. And, you're losing some of the pass rushing upside here because he's playing more off ball. Like I said, attributed to the situation at the linebacking core. So I'm definitely fading Abdul Carter this week. What about you, Steve? Who's your fade?
Boye Mafe, Seahawks. Nothing good to say here. Just follow the breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel. Week 1, 64% snaps, 2 tackles. Week 2, 68% of snaps, 1 tackle. Week 3, 40%, nothing. So, he's got matchups coming up, the Cardinals, the Jaguars, the Buccaneers. They give up pressures, but they don't really give up that much to the sack department. So I'm fading Boye Mafe.
What about you, JT? Who's your fade at DL?
I'm fading Zach Seiler. He just has not been great this year. He's been good in the past, especially from the interior, a guy you want to play. We just haven't seen the production at all with him this year. He's not getting a lot of good pressure rate. Last week, 0 pressure rate. His win rate, 4.4%, 4.0, 4% with a 54.9 pass rush grade. This Dolphins is this Dolphins defense pass rush was expected to be a lot better than it has been. I'm out on a lot of these guys. Seiler right now, I'm not playing him. I would just go a different direction until he turns it around.
Got a question here from Epic Fail. 12-man redraft, start 2 DBs. Would you drop any one of these? Tyke, Brisker, Battle for Delpit. I don't know if I would drop anybody for Delpit out of those 3, to be honest. Maybe Battle. But
if you're in redraft, Battle would be the first guy I think of. But I tell you what, Brisker has not been great this year. I would hate to dump him in a dynasty, but in a redraft league, I would consider picking up Delpit for Brisker, which I can't believe I'm saying that. Brisker, I like to call him Brisket. When I type it in my phone, Brisket is what I like to call him, his nickname. But he IDP stats, smart. He's not been great this year.
Yeah, that's smart. Brisker is the answer, but no one wants to do it because you had to pay a high premium. So see if you can trade him. That's excellent. Smart take, JT.
All right, let's get into linebackers. Mine is Ivan Pace. Like I said earlier, the third down snap percentage, went way down. He's back to, Eric Wilson is the guy who's playing all 3 downs there for the linebacking core for Minnesota. Just not enough time on the field. He's definitely my fade this week at linebacker. Steve, who's your fade at linebacker?
So I'm fading Cedric Gray of the Titans. I was talking to Joe Wiggins from Offensive Points over the phone when I was at work today about this. He picked up Kaiser White in our Kings Classic, but I have a counterpoint. So Cedric Gray received 56% of the snaps, 5 tackles. Kaiser White ate the other 35% with 3 tackles. So there's an LB2 role, but they're just splitting it. In my opinion, I do see that possibly switching as the weeks go. White being he just got there. But either way, it's not something I want to pick up or have anything to do with right now. Neither guy is startable right now, so it's a lose-lose either way to me. I don't want either one for the moment until those numbers increase. And
JT, who's your fade here at linebacker?
A couple weeks ago, he was one of my favorite plays, and I love the start. Servassier Dennis for the Buccaneers. 10 tackles, pass defended week 1. I picked him up in a bunch of places. I was fired up about it. But over the last 2 weeks, 7 tackles combined in the last 2 games. The tackle efficiency has been terrible. 5.8% tackle efficiency in week 3. I'm not giving up on him totally, especially in redraft. Dynasty, I'm holding. But right now, if I've got better options at linebacker, I do on a couple of my teams. So I sat him for like perfect examples. I sat Dennis for Christian Rosemoon this week. So I'm like, I'm gonna take a little. I'm not totally off on him, but I need to see those efficiency numbers go back up, and I need to see the tackles before he's back in the starting lineup.
I got a question here from Summer. Welcome back, Summer. Let me see. Here we go. All right, I can press buttons. Good, Jorge. Devin White or Jared Verse this week. Both are classified as linebackers in my league. So for me, I would roll with White just because we've seen Jermaine Pratt playing more of an edge role, so that off-ball linebacker role is really solidified. White here as the start here. What about you, Steve?
Scoring. What are we doing? Is it if it's tackle premium, I'm going with linebackers. If it's something else, you know what I mean? Like I'd probably go whatever. But yeah, it's scoring based to me, and it's hard for me to pass up a 3-down linebacker, especially the snaps he's getting.
Colts have been running the football great. So I think I go, especially Verse doesn't count as a DN. If it counts as a linebacker, I got to go White.
All right, let's go defensive back here. And it's a guy that you brought up, Steve, last week, Tyler Nubin, but I got another reason why I'm not so high on Tyler Nubin. Him and Javon Holland were basically playing equal amounts of snaps in the box. And it reminds me of what they were doing with Javon Holland, the Dolphins, that is back, I want to say his second year. And I forget who the free safety was. And I was doing this show with Nate Markham back then, and we were always talking about this because they were like 1 and 2 in the league in quarterback hits in their box snaps. And it's just like, what's old is new again. And now you're seeing Nubin and Javon Holland having that, it's one of those things where it's like, they're grasping at straws in this Giants secondary. They're trying to figure out like who's going to start where, who's the best fit. And they just keep on pushing people forward, pushing people back. And now you're seeing them cannibalize each other closer to the line of scrimmage. So I'm all out on Tyler Nubin going forward. All right. Who's your fade here, Steve?
Yeah, so my fade is going to be Jesse Bates. Now, it's not an outright benching. I'm just saying, maybe he's a DB1, Fantasy Pros DB11, but he's more playing like a DB3 right now. Now, granted, he does have 2 games with 7 tackles, so you can probably use him as like a back-end DB, but not for the price you paid for him. If you look at usage, he's still getting a 50% box snap share, but you know who's sucking all of his sweet spot points here? It's Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts getting 49.1%. So because Xavier Watts exists, we gotta be mindful of Jesse Bates now. Jesse Bates' production historically comes from turnovers, big plays, sacks, interceptions. He's not really getting that. He's just getting that tackle, kind of hanging out, like I mentioned, the DB3. So if Jesse Bates were a drink, he'd be all foam. He'd be that alcoholic drink of all foam. There's not much substance. It's just, once you get past the froth.
That is a beautiful analogy. All right, JT, who's your fade at defensive back?
A team I talk up all the time, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm fading their entire safety group. Without Deshaun Elliott, I don't want any part of these guys. I know everybody last couple of weeks, like, who's the guy to pick up? Who to get off waivers? Who are you going to start? I don't like what I'm seeing out of this group as far as snap share, who's playing where and when. You got Chuck Clark, Jabril Peppers brought in, Juan Thornhill. I mean, you're looking at last week, Peppers got the most box safety snaps at 60% when he was in there, but he only saw 58% of snaps. Thornhill, 39%. Chuck Clark, 75%, but he was playing 73% of the time at deep safety. I'm not into this group unless Jabril Peppers starts getting just a ton more snaps and they're all in the box or in the slot and he basically is making tackles. For right now, I'm avoiding this group until Elliott gets back.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our plays and fade segment. Last thing to do here, let's talk about some sacks. So I'll wait for Gary to return next week before we keep a tally of who's doing what. But sackless.
Gary's got his pick in there, and I've already had to change my pick because I didn't want to steal his thunder. So Gary did jump. He knew he couldn't be on the show tonight. He jumped in and he took Will Anderson for Houston against Tennessee. That was my pick. But since I've gotten absolutely berated for stealing his hooker last week, I am not going to steal his guy. So I'm going the other side, and I'm taking Danielle Hunter. I'm taking this boy on the other end, but I'm not taking Will Anderson because I can't have Gary hating on me anymore for stealing his guys. So he's taking Will Anderson. I'm taking Hunter, both for Houston against Tennessee next week.
And not to mention Mr. Potty Mouth here, Mr. Justin Taylor, JT Orange, as Steve went back and looked at the film last week, dropping a random F-bomb. Totally F-bomb.
I didn't even know I said it.
I didn't even know you said it. That's how subtle it was.
We had to go to the instant replay, you know.
I go to Steve, who are you predicting to have a sack this week?
Yeah, I'm going Aiden Hutchinson of the Browns. It's not as easy of a call as you think. I mean, I looked yesterday. Hutchinson's got an injury, I think, to his foot. So hopefully he'll play. I haven't heard anything about it. And the Browns have not been that bad against pass blocking. They're 13th ranked, so they're middle of the pack. But the reason I'm going Hutchinson here, it's old man Joe Flacco. I mean, he's getting older. He's slower. He's been sacked 6 times in 3 games, you know, due to his maneuverability, you know. And then the Browns' offensive line, particularly at left tackle, has shown vulnerability and weakness. So I think Hutchinson, who's ranked, third amongst defensive ends, Pro Football Focus, I think he'll be able to get in there and make some moves and get to the quarterback. I like his chances, so I'll take it.
All right, I'm going to go with my play this week in Rashawn Gary. I just feel like Dallas is going to be a C for, just their offensive line is going to give way. And as soon as they find a way to, try to stop Parsons, Gary's going to be on the other side and get his sack. And then Jorge will be off the schneid. He'll get his first one of the season. So
they may have 10 people block Parsons just in that regard.
Hey, I'll take it. Rashawn.
I almost took Parsons, and I thought they really don't want to give up a sack to Parsons. I was like, they're gonna really try not to. Dak does not want to get sacked by him, so I really thought through that. I was like, that probably should be a good pick. I'm like, man, they really don't want him to get a sack. So I'm like, they're gonna try to do everything they can to not let him get home.
All right, folks, that's going to do us for Shoot the Gap. Next hour, literally in a few minutes, Fourth and Frames, our redraft offense only podcast will be taking place here with Rhett Manuel, Kyle Ziegler, Aiden Weingartner, and myself. So stay tuned for that. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. And folks, you can always catch our podcast here at the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to podcasts tomorrow morning. So for Steve, for JT, I'm Jorge. We'll see you next time.